Action.
Hello and welcome to IQ session number 25. How good's that? Most of you guys have joined us for most of them too, so that's even cooler. So thank you guys so much. I'm just going to include you in more of that as well.
Just get my shoulder.
Tonight's topic is called standards versus beating yourself up.
Heavy. Getting heavy.
Deep. Real deep. You got to start anyway, so you may as well take it off. You know that I'll just stall and just talk about crap for way too long.
Yeah. So we are going to open with standards. So the whole point of it is that I just want to get across that we all have them. We all need them. They're super important. And they're often the difference between finding true love versus finding something out of convenience. It's having a standard is the reason you find that person in your life that you're meant to be with, because you have standards, you want to meet them, and you don't compromise them to be with that person. We have them for how we dress, how we talk, how we live. They're just embedded in everything. We all have them. But the challenge is that quite often along the way is we stumble with our standards. And quite often you'll see those stumbles when you start a health and fitness journey or something like that. We all of a sudden want this. So we raise our standards. I'm going to make the boot camps. I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat this. So we raise our standards, which is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that, because it's saying that you want more from yourself and you expect more from yourself. And that is totally cool. But the challenge with that is we often feel bad when we fumble and we start to beat ourselves up a bit, because we know that we've lowered them to either please someone or to out of ease. That's the difference. So we either do it, we lower our standards because we're trying to please someone, or out of ease because it's easier to not do it than it is to do it, or because someone doesn't think you should do it and you listen to that person. So we try and please them because I want to be friends with that person and they don't want to do it, so why should I do it? So you lower your standards out of people or out of ease because I can't be bothered. Okay. And that rattles you, and that honestly, because basically you get frustrated, you get angry, because remember the friend with a dog that had a cousin said to you that you couldn't do it, and now all of a sudden they're right. So you get angry in yourself because you sacrificed and you raised them and you wanted to do it, but you dropped because you couldn't do it for some reason, to either please someone or out of ease. That's generally the only reasons that it happens. And it's because we get angry at these lowering of these standards, because reality is you're chasing perfection, which is the tricky part, because we can't ever have perfection. We can only have a perfect effort. Like you can give everything you've got to your challenge. You can give everything you've got to your nutrition, your workouts and all that sort of stuff there, but you can't ever do it perfectly. No one can. But that's the beauty of it, is you don't have to be able to do it. But the challenge is we chase that Insta book lifestyle. We see all those people and they're looking beautiful, the perfect lighting, and they can do this and this happens and everything's easy for them, because you see a snippet of their lifestyle. You don't see behind the scenes. You see what they want you to see. And you start sabotaging yourself big time, and you start asking, how can they do that? Why can't I do that? They don't have kids and that's not fair. And we start doing this whole blame game to justify us lowering our standards. And remember, this is the key. If you ask a stupid question, you will get a stupid answer. And asking something like that is stupid, because it demands a stupid answer, you're going to get it. Because if I say to myself, what is wrong with me? My brain starts going through and gives me everything that is wrong with me. Everything. It just starts throwing them at me. So my happy-go-lucky energy gets smashed because my brain starts throwing everything that's wrong with me, that I believe is wrong with me, that something's happened to me that I believe is wrong with me. And it gives those feelings to me. So then I start to feel low. So ask a stupid question, get a stupid answer.
So standards are really super, super important. But you can take that a little bit too far and you start to beat yourself up. So perfection, first of all, we need to make this really clear. Perfection is impossible. It's 100% not possible to be perfect. There is no perfect human. There never has been. There never will be. So what does beating yourself up look like? There's a really fancy term called negative explanatory style. So this might, to put this into layman's terms, it's kind of when you go, I always do this. Or it's, you know, when you're in an argument and it's heated and you go to the extreme, like Matt will annoy me and I'll be like, you always leave your socks on the floor. And he's like, every time, like all of them, like every single one. So it's those kind of things that I will never be so it's that when you're blaming bad events here, I'm just referring to my notes, sorry, blaming bad events on permanent, all-encompassing aspects of yourself. So that's the whole I always, I'll never, it's that kind of language. This is when you get into the beating up zone, because no good can come from that. It's kind of that whole ask a shitty question, get a shitty response. What's wrong with me? Well, let's find everything that's wrong with you. I always do this. Well, you're kind of alluding to the fact that you're just dumb, or, you know, you'll never be good enough. You know, when you take back all those layers, it kind of comes back to that. And what we need to do is change it from, so this is in the setting of when you're, I guess, reflecting upon an event. So for example, you've set a standard, you wanted to eat healthy today, and then the chocolate came out and you couldn't help yourself. And this is when you get in the head zone of, I always do this. I'll never be skinny, etc., etc. These are possible things that could be happening. But what we need to do is we need to change our language. And we've referred to this so many times in so many different IQ sessions. We need to go from the I always and focusing on, you know, events. We need to focus on specific changeable behaviors. We're getting deep. We're getting like technical tonight.
Very technical.
Specific changeable behaviors that you can improve. So like really zeroing in on specific actions will shift your mindset, rather than going, I always do this, I'll never be this. That's kind of saying that there's something wrong with you and that you're not perfect and you'll never be perfect. But we need to then focus more on zeroing in on the specific action to shift your mindset from I have to be perfect to I'm a work in progress. Now, what I'm meaning by that is going, for example, like a work example, you give a presentation, you come out of that presentation and you go straight to, oh my God, that was so terrible. I always do this. I'll never be good at this. I'll never be good at public speaking. Rather than having that kind of self-talk to yourself, shifting it to going, okay, what didn't go so well? Well, I felt really unprepared. Okay, well, I spent 5 minutes preparing, so next time I probably need to spend 15 minutes preparing, those kind of things. So rather than being sucked into the emotion of it, we need to take the emotion out to see it as it is, not worse than it is. And then only from then you can work out small specific action steps to help you improve. Because remember, we've set a standard. We don't want to lower those standards. We want to keep those standards high, but we don't want to beat yourself up, because self-critiquing is very, very important. It's very healthy. It's a measurement tool. It's kind of like, your jeans. They're a great measurement tool for how you're tracking with your current weight state. If they're a little bit tight, maybe you need to ease back on the chocolate. If they're a little loose, maybe you could up your food game a little bit. So self-critiquing is really helpful. It makes you for a better person, more humane, more self-aware, and all this kind of thing too. But everything is in moderation, remember, and no excess of anything is a good thing. So we want to set a standard and we want a higher standard, and we don't want to lower those out of ease or pleasing other people. But how do we track that, and how do we stick to those standards? And that really comes down to self-critiquing, because you need to have a measurement tool. So it's like, if you never measured, you'd never know exactly where you are. And that's why the jeans analogy is a good reference point to go, you chuck on your jeans rather than stepping on the scales, put on the jeans to say, how are they fitting at the moment? Are they a little snug? Are they a little loose? because we want to maintain those standards, or we want to increase standards, whatever it may be. But the thing is that we're not perfect, so we're going to have slip-ups. There's going to be things that are imperfect about that journey and about that progress. So it might be a weight loss fitness journey, and you might say, I'm only going to eat healthy today, and then you have the chocolate and you think that that's not healthy, and so you beat yourself up. But the challenge about beating yourself up is, I guarantee you, if you were to say those things that you say to yourself, if you were allowed those to be said to your child, there'd be a different response, wouldn't there? And this is the only thing that we get to listen to forever. And if you're constantly bullying yourself, what's that going to make for in the end? And really, if we're beating ourselves up, that is no way going to enhance your progress. Beating yourself up does not make you feel empowered and strong and ready to take on the next challenge and to improve and wake up tomorrow and go, I've got this, I'm going to do this even better. We'd only do that by looking at our standards, and we're going to give you some tips on how to do this. But what we're trying to really get across is that standards are so important, and we don't want you to drop them. However, if you go take it a little bit too far and go into beating yourself up, that's only going to be your detriment on the other side, because no good comes from that. Again, no good comes from excess of anything, whether it's chocolate or broccoli. What doesn't matter, if you have too much, it's not going to be a good thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. The steps.
I just want to make sure that there was not something else that I wanted to chat about before. So we've kind of explained what the standards are, what beating yourself up kind of looks like. But you guys know what that feels like, because I guarantee that you've all been in that situation. You've all done that. Oh, I'm so dumb, or I'll never be skinny, or I always do this. I always stuff up, etc., etc. So how do we not beat ourselves up, but how do we hold ourselves to a standard? Because it actually is a bit of a fine line, and it can be a bit of a tricky one to know, you want the best for yourself, but we don't want to go into that whole beating yourself up. So step 1, change your state. What we mean by change of state is we don't mean move from Victoria to New South Wales. However, at the moment, that's kind of appealing. I'm talking about your physical state. So if I got you to act out a sad, depressed person, do it now for me. What would you do if I said, become a sad, depressed person? You'd all sink down, everyone drops their heads, their shoulders come forward, and it's a really sad and depressing state. And then if I say to you, I want you to feel like you've just won $1 million, the state changes. So this is the state that I'm talking about. It's your being, it's your energy, whatever it is you want to refer to it. So first step in making sure that you're holding yourself to a standard but not going too far of beating yourself up is changing your state. Because what happens is, let's say you've just given a presentation at work. You come out of that presentation, you just decided that was actually a really shitty job. Chances are your energy is going to be low, your state's going to be pretty poor, really. So before we go into reflection and self-critiquing, we need to make sure that we're in a better state. So the first way that we change our state is you got to move. Movement changes your state. Now that's huffy puffy. So 10 seconds of huffy puffy. That's going for a run, going for a walk, whatever it might be. Jump down and do some push-ups, some burpees, doesn't matter. You just got to shift, and you got to shift it dramatically. So you got to change yourself from a depressed state, or whatever it might be, a negative state of some form, into a non-negative, into a positive state, so that you can accurately assess the situation. Because when you're in that argument with your husband and you say, you always put your socks on the floor, well, it's not actually the case, is it? Because you're not in help me out here. I've just totally lost my train of thought.
I'm not sure what this one is. I'm sorry.
Thanks. Hang me out to dry. When you're in that state and you see things worse than they are. That's what I was trying to say. Sorry. Because you always leave your socks on the floor. Well, that's not actually the case, is it? So you're not seeing them as they are. You're seeing them worse. You're seeing them heightened, exaggerated. So first step is changing your state. Cool. Got it. Second step.
That's me. I'm in. Next up is stop comparing yourself to others. That's a big one. And like I was saying before, the Instabook lifestyle, everyone's trying to, oh my God, that person looks amazing. Oh my God, look at their abs, look at their life, look at their cars, look at their everything. And we get jealous, we get upset, we start beating ourselves up because we don't have it. Then we look around and we blame people because they're the reason I don't have it, because I had kids and you made me have kids, and all this stuff starts coming out. All the language is horrible. And it's because you're comparing yourself and your current situation to someone else. And you have to stop that because it does nothing for you. It does everything else but. But what you have to do is when you see someone that has that lifestyle that does make you go, wow, you need to be inspired by it, but not intimidated by it. So the idea is that you get inspired by that person. You don't idolize the person. There's no good comes from idolizing someone. What you do is you look at them and go, what is that person doing? Wow, that's so cool. Can I implement some of that stuff into my life? So instead of comparing my life to their life, I go, is there things that I could take from what they do and put them into my life? And so I become a better person by watching what they do, because success does leave clues. And those people are obviously doing something that is I'm intrigued in. So I'm entitled to look. But what I can't do is go, oh man, they've got that and I've only got this.
I'll never be like that because
that's impossible. You know, and I hear this one a lot, you know, I don't have kids. I'm not a female. So this is purely because I hear it a lot. I'm a trainer. I'll never get back my pre-kid body and all that sort of stuff there. And that's a big thing for these people. But what does that matter? Like that's really the interesting thing. Does it really matter that you couldn't go back to that shape before? Okay. And because they aspire to see someone else on Instagram or Facebook and something like that, and they want that body, that's okay. You can be inspired by that body, but your journey's different. Okay. So you don't need to compare that journey to your journey because their journey is totally different. You don't know if they've had any work done. You don't know all that stuff. You only see what they want to show you. Okay. So nothing good comes of comparing yourself to others. Nothing. But like I said, you can not idolize, you can be inspired by how they live and inspired by what they have, but you can't beat yourself up because you don't have what they have. Remember, and this got put to me one time, and I said, someone said to me, who's your idol? And I think at the time I said Tony Robbins, and she goes, and Rowie, one of my mentors, said to me, she goes, you know, what would you do if you saw him? And I was like, I got nervous, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I would say. Oh my God. You know, I'd be like this. And she goes, Maddie, does he poo? And I'm like, yes. Do you poo? Yes. So what does it matter? He's just a person. And that's it. The person on the other side of that Instagram or on the Facebook is just a person. They do all the same things. They poo, they wee, they do this stuff. They exercise, they get up in the morning. They have fights with their partners. They have days when they don't want to get out of bed. They have days when they feel sad. They have all these emotions. But
they have days when they eat way too many chocolate bars. All
that stuff everyone has it, but they only share with you what they want to share with you. And you don't see the behind the scenes thing. You only see the polished, the filter. You know, these filters come on. Everyone's like, oh, I look amazing. And it's like a filter. And then you see the person in real life and it's like, that's not what you look like. You look different.
Because remember, perfection is impossible.
So why would you want to do that to yourself? Be proud of who you are. So just don't compare yourself to others.
So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is change from my mistakes into learning opportunities. So when you blew out your calories, it's not a mistake and it's not a chance to beat yourself up. It's a learning opportunity. So this is where we talk about taking the emotion out, kind of stepping out of it. So remember, we've already changed our state. We're not going to compare ourselves to others and what we think Matt would do, or what we think, how perfect we think Matt is, or whatever it might be.
Very perfect.
And then we're going to change our language and our mindset from I've made a mistake, because that implies that you're not perfect. And although we're not, but it puts a negative spin on it from the get-go, changing it from a mistake to a learning opportunity, because a learning opportunity you can move forward from. A mistake, you know, when someone makes a mistake, they're punished. But a learning opportunity is a chance to project forward and to improve and to get better, because that's what we're trying to do, right? We've got these standards and we're trying to hit them. Now, so what we want to do is we want to take out the emotion so that we can see it as it is, not worse than it is and not better than it is. So, all right, I blew out my calories today. I don't want to look at it as you bad person, you always do this, you'll always be fat. We're not going to look at it like that. We're going to go, okay, what actually happened? why did I do that? What triggered me? And what could I do tomorrow to avoid doing that? See what a different spin that puts on it. However, you'll only be able to get into this mindset if you're in a different state. If you're beating yourself up and you're in this shitty state, you're not going to be able to have these, you're not going to be able to get good quality answers for these questions. So it's like, cool, what happened? What, all right, I blew out my calories, but it's because I didn't eat when I probably should have. So I got really hangry, and then I got pissed off, and then the kids were yelling at me and this. Okay, this is what happened. All right, how would I avoid that in the future? All right, I need to make sure that I put some time aside for myself and know that I am important and all this kind of stuff too. So changing from mistakes to learning opportunities is a huge shift just in itself, changing you from standards and not beating yourself up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Our fourth step is positive self-talk. Now, this isn't going around going, I'm amazing, I'm amazing, I'm amazing, I'm amazing, I'm amazing. It's not that. It's not what we're saying to do. What you need to be aware of is that there's only one person's opinion in the whole world that matters to you more than anyone else, and it's your own. What Sheridan thinks of me is irrelevant if I don't think that. Okay? It's what I think about myself, because the only opinion you hear, the only voice you hear more than anyone else's is not your partner's, it's your own. It's the internal dialogue in your head. So if you're constantly saying, I am useless, what is wrong with me? I am fat, I am this, I am that. Your brain goes, yes, you are, yes, you are, yes, you are, yes, you are. But if you switch that language and you say, you know what? I've had a bad day today. Brain goes, yes, you have. And you go, but tomorrow's a new day. Yes, it is. I'm going to have a better day. Yes, you are. It doesn't argue with you. It agrees with everything you say. So if you can change your language, you change your outcome. And that's how important it is. So how we speak to ourselves is like crazy, crazy important. So the one thing that goes on in your head that no one else can hear is the constant chatter. And if you're constantly beating yourself up, your brain is agreeing with you and it's throwing you jabs like this as well. It's giving them to your left, right, and center. It doesn't argue with you. Now, the worst part is when you talk to a friend and they side with your thoughts. Oh my God, this person's having this person. This person goes, oh my God, I agree. Now you've got two voices agreeing and your brain going, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. And all of a sudden, this beats you up. And it's so important to change that language. Okay? Your opinion of yourself matters more than anything else, more than any one of your friends, more than your partner, more than your mum, your dad. Get that out of your head, because what you think of yourself matters the most. Okay? Because you're in your head all day.
And the best way to look at this is if you don't have children, pretend that you do. But if you do have children, I'm sure this will be a really easy way to look at it is, how would you like your child to see themselves? And if you were to give them your opinion of yourself, if you were to gift that to your child to have that as their opinion of themselves, would you be happy with that? So if my opinion of myself was I'm a fat, useless, worthless piece of shit, how would I feel if I had children, if I would allow my daughter to have that opinion of herself? Hell no, I would not want to have her to have that opinion of herself. So why is it okay for you to have that opinion of yourself? So that's one that we really need to change. And that comes down from we've done an IQ session on positive self-talk. So I'd love you to maybe re-listen to that again to really dive deeper into this point. But it's not going to be an instantaneous like, oh, I'm awesome all the time, but it's building that muscle, isn't it? It's like when you first started the gym, you weren't as strong as you are now, or you weren't as fit as you are now, and you weren't as fast as you are now. It's all takes time and it's practice. You got to build the muscle.
Well, think about the 8-week challenge. It's just happened. So 8 weeks ago, you were a different person than when you are today. So that took 8 weeks. It didn't take 8 days. It took time, and you had to be patient, which is our next step we're going to talk about in a second, but you had to be patient and let it
spoiler alert
and let it roll out and take the course and trust in the process and surround yourself with positive people and surround yourself with people who believe in you, not the negative know-nothings that pull you down all the time. You changed your situation. You found a tribe, a unit, a community, a family, whatever you want to call it, to help you hold yourself to a high standard and keep that standard. And when you were down, they picked you back up, or they caught you out and said, what's wrong with you? And that's a dumb question to ask, sorry. How can I help you? Or how can we change that state? What can we do right now to change that
You know
moment?
what he meant.
Yeah.
But positive self-talk is really important, and kind of the reason why we have this as point number 4 as well, is that someone who has positive self-talk, do you think that they would beat themselves up, or do you think they would just hold themselves to a high standard? And so we're trying to, what it all comes down to is we want you to have high standards, because we want you to have a phenomenal life. We want you to have the best life that you could possibly think of, and then better. But you're not going to get there by beating yourself up. Only someone who has high standards and holds them to themselves, and yes, they self-critique, but they do it in a form of measurement, of going, it's like looking at your bank account. Okay, am I broke? Am I doing okay? Am I wealthy? Am I saving? Like, it's just a measurement tool. It's like chucking on those jeans. Are they tight? Let's be realistic. Are they tight, or are they just, you haven't washed them in 6 months and they're really, really loose, really stretched? So positive self-talk, a person that gives themselves positive self-talk is going to have high standards and hold themselves to that without beating themselves up. Point number 5, and our final point for today, is patience. We spoiled it before.
Sorry.
Just like Matt said, 8 weeks it took for us to get to where we are today. We learned so much, but that didn't happen in 8 minutes. It was 8 weeks. So with all of this, it's all about building the muscle. And when you're trying to change 30 years of habits, you can't expect it to just fit like a glove. It might feel weird, saying positive self-talk to yourself, like that might feel super, super weird, especially if we get you to do it in a mirror to yourself. You are awesome. Gosh, you're beautiful. Things like that. But it comes down to patience and consistency, but patience. You can't expect perfection as well. Remember that, is that, this journey, you're going to have slip-ups, but it's how you respond to those slip-ups. Do you beat yourself up, or are you just going to hold yourself to a high standard and analyze where you're at, look at it as it is, not worse than it is, and pick up and make it do better tomorrow?
Yeah. And on that point there, where you're looking at the situation, a really cool way of doing this, it's called first, second, and third person. And if you look at it from first person, that's blame. That's me. You hear, oh, it's always my fault. I, me. And you hear the language of the person talking to you. They're in first person. If they're using I, me, my, it's all about that person. That's first place. That's an emotional response. The second one is the blame one. It's second place, which is they, them, that, and they start pointing fingers. So the easiest one to do it is in third place. It's when you sit back unemotionally, you eject yourself from the situation. You kind of need to hover above it all.
It's like
and
you're
look
sitting
down
on the
on
moon
it.
looking down.
And you're just looking down on it unobjectively and just looking at the situation going, oh no, I stuffed that up. I was hanging out with that person. It was probably not the right decision. That's okay. I can change that. I'll just limit my time with that person. There's nothing wrong, nothing bad. It's not the person. It was me. It was my decision. I had to do that. There was nothing to do with the person. It was all to do with me. But the reality is I took the emotion out of it and thought, I can't be the victim. I can't point the finger. I need to be an adult and grow up and go, all right, let's look at this for what it is, not worse than it is. So I'm going to eject myself emotionally from the situation, whether I'm in the wrong or in the right.
And the only way you can do that is by changing your state.
That's it.
So if you're in a shitty state, you won't be able to get yourself into a third person.
Because you're angry. The emotion's high.
You're one. You're So really, to wrap this up and to summarize, is that standards are so important, and have high standards. We encourage you to keep shifting them and make them high, because that's what leads to a magnificent life. It seriously does. But you can't get there by beating yourself up. It's just, you wouldn't allow your daughter to do it to herself. You wouldn't allow anyone to beat you up the way that you beat yourself up. So it's not going to get you to where you want to get to. And to do this, first of all, you got to change your state. Second, you got to stop comparing yourself to others and chasing perfection. Thirdly, you got to change your mindset from mistakes to learning opportunities. Fourth, you've got to encourage that positive self-talk muscle. And then fifth, you got to have the patience.
You got to write it out. Takes time.
It does.
And you're trying to break habits. So
just keep
it takes
chipping
time.
Away.
That's it.
Chipping
Easy.
away. And that, my friends, is us completo. Do we have any questions? Please. Any questions? You can either type away or you can wave at me and I can unmute you. Or not, we just do this like awkward silence thing where it's like, You talk. No, you talk.
Right.
Well, if there's no questions, brilliant. Oh, thank you so much, Enzo. I appreciate it. Thank you guys as always, for investing time in you. And Fit Body, Fit Mind is called that because it's not just about having a great body or being fitter than you were yesterday. It's about the whole package. And we're just so grateful and blessed that you guys take the time to invest in yourself, because it is so important, and we love that you guys do, and you're always consistent, which is awesome. If there is ever a topic that you would like us to discuss, please send through suggestions. We're always very willing to hear suggestions, because sometimes like, oh shit, what are we going to talk about? So thank you guys so much though for always listening. But yeah, if you have any questions, reach out. And we love you all so much. Thanks, you guys. Enjoy your Thursday night. Ciao, ciao.